Please excuse the hot mess that I am because I was busy cleaning and the wind. I'll try to speak as loud as I can because I don't know where my little microphone is. I wanted to touch bases on the fact that this month is Domestic Abuse Awareness Month. This topic is a very serious topic and one that I know for a fact that I can speak on. I myself have been unfortunate to be in abusive relationships. And I will say to you, not all abusive relationships will look the same. In my early 20s, I was in a very bad abusive relationship for about 4 years. It was my first long-term real relationship. And one thing I've noticed in most relationships that people who are abusive tend to isolate the other person in various ways. Years down the line, because I want to keep the story short, I got into another relationship. And in this relationship, I got married. And in this relationship, I thought I was better off because this relationship, I wasn't being hit and I wasn't being treated a certain way as my first relationship did. So in my first relationship, there was physical abuse, there was all sorts of abuse when it came to that relationship that left me traumatized for many years. And I thought I could get over it, or I thought I was getting over it and I was doing okay. But then the nightmares started. And years down the line, it continued to having nightmares. But when I was in my second relationship, I wasn't seeing the same patterns. So I thought to myself, this isn't abuse. I think I'm better off. Maybe I'm just traumatized from what happened to me before. And in my second relationship, he would reiterate to me that I would respond a certain way because of my previous abusive relationship, even though it had nothing to do with the conversation or the situation. And I felt like I wasn't even responding unfairly, like anyone would have responded that way to said situations. Years went down the line, and because you truly love someone, you give them a chance and you forgive a lot of the things that they do to you. But deep down, you kept telling yourself, or you're in denial, that what was happening wasn't abuse because there was no physical altercations all the time. There might have been one or two, but never a constant physical altercation where he was putting hands on me. It was just mostly words and controlling and other situations. But then I had to sit and think to myself, those things are also abuse. When I spoke to a therapist, she said, yes, that is emotional abuse. That is financial abuse. That is manipulation. All these things that you learn that you yourself at sometimes don't know any better because you're thinking, if they're not putting hands on me, it's not really abuse. So now I'm left with two traumas: actual physical abuse and emotional, financial abuse on the second part, or my second relationship. Mind you, my second relationship is a lot longer, 16 years of marriage, that we never separated, although he was telling others I was. Other forms of abuse were the manipulation, the controlling, the paranoia, the insecurities, making it seem like I was the problem just because I was reacting to said abuse. Those of you, I'm sure, have heard of the term reactive abuse, and I was going through a lot of that. There were times when I was tricked into reacting and then it being used against me, because then when other people saw my reaction, then it was like, you see what I mean? She's crazy. And yes, it was typical abuse, narcissistic abuse that I now have to overcome, and I've been doing therapy for, and it's a whole lot of stuff that now I have to fix and I have to mend, not only for me, but for my children. What's worse is when you have other people who go through it as well, especially someone as innocent as children. but they will be out there like they're the most charming people in the world. They wouldn't hurt a fly. They're so calm and collected. They just knew how to push your buttons and would do sneaky things just to wait for you to react a certain way. That is abuse. When someone's committing fraud in your name with credit cards, and when they are not keeping you up to date with financial decisions, financial situations, keeping money from you or taking money from you, that is abuse. When someone's constantly spying on your emails, your social media accounts, doing all sorts, and even taking the time for them to block people on your accounts, trying to keep you from speaking to certain people, that is also abuse. Because one thing is being respectful, and I know for a fact that I was never disrespectful, and I never spoke to anyone while in my relationship, in my marriage. It was made to be like I was out here talking to people just because they didn't like the fact that I knew these people before him. And if I had any sort of closeness to this person, there was a problem. And I'm not talking about an ex. I'm not talking about someone who I was currently having inappropriate conversations with. No, it was always friendly. This was someone that knew 15 years ago. Genuine people will ask to see how you're doing, how you've been, and you could do the same because you feel like this person's never mistreated you, never disrespected you. So you reach out as well. You're like, how's life going? And they tell you about their family and how things are going. It's always innocent. I, for one, have never been one in my relationship to go and cheat on the person that I am with. And I just have always had that feeling that if you don't want to be with someone, you just let them know and end it. But of course, that was the last straw for me. And I tried even forgiving. That's how attached you become to these sort of relationships. You allow abuse, you allow disrespect, and you're still willing to give that person a chance. But somehow you always end up being the bad guy no matter what. It's always your fault. It's always you made me do it. And some of the similarities in those two abusive situations, whether it was my first abusive relationship and my marriage, is that they both turn to me and say, you made me do it. Abusers lack accountability. And I've learned that they don't care about your feelings. They don't care about who they hurt. They don't care if there's children involved in the family. The family dynamic. If they can make themselves out to look like the victim, they will. And they will make you out to look like you're the crazy one and you're the person with the problem. And they will continue to do that if you have children with them as well, which is really sad. But they will never respect you and they will never change. So I'm so sorry if you've gone through abuse in any relationship that you've been in. And my advice to you is to get out. Try to find a way to heal. And I wish you nothing but healing and strength to get through these hard times. Some people don't survive. And I hope there are no more sad stories to be told.